Hey y'all, it's Krypton Critics. I'm here to review Mortal Kombat, which came out 1995, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. It stars uh, Robin Shaw as Liu Kang, uh, Bridget Wilson as Sonya Blade, uh, Linson Ashby as Johnny Cage, Corey Hiroyuki Takawa as Shang Tzu, Christopher Lambert as Raiden, and Talisa Soto as Katana. Uh, Now, I know I'm partially familiar with Paul W.S. Anderson's work. I know he's directed uh, not so good films, including AVP, three different Resident Evil films, and Three Musketeers from 2011. Unfortunately, one of my favorite actors is in that, Christoph Waltz. Either he's, as far as I know, even in bad movies he's great, but I still don't want to see him in bad movies because he is such a great talent. Anyway, now when this movie came out, it was not too long after the first game came out. The first game was incredibly popular across America. There were hundreds, thousands upon thousands of people playing it. It was talked about everywhere. Not only was it groundbreaking as just the video game medium and taking arcade style to a whole nother level, and the graphics at the time were boggling to people's heads because it didn't look like 8-bit, and that's what people had been so accustomed to at the time. It was very much a holdover from the lack of computer processing power from back in the 80s, and but this just started a new thing. But there was a lot of concern of parents and people in the community that this was corrupting the children. Much like comic books in the 50s, where Frederick Wertham was upset by the violence in comics. People were upset about the violence in video games. People really started thinking about this after the original game had come out. So of course a movie has to come out that is not R, and that has like a teaspoon of blood in the entire film, because the original series, even video games that continue today, they've been progressively gotten more gory. Back then it was just the graphics couldn't show, making it look as realistic as it does today. Now if the game like Mortal Kombat X, the most recent in the series, had been released in the same context back in 1990 whatever, there would be no sequel been made, because even today people look at that game and like, oh my god, this is horrifying. These brutalities, these fatalities are just too, that's what people would feel. Some like kids that weren't technically old enough to purchase the game still got around it. Some cool parents would allow them, and became this thing that all the middle school age children would flock to, just like this underground thing to some people, but it was still very popular. You couldn't get away from it. So obviously studio has to take that advantage. Now, the best things about this movie are the cinematography. If you put aside the CGI fest, if you just look at some of the shots of the characters together, the fights and the colors being on them, and just nature and like buildings. They're all fucking beautiful. They really are. Like there is some expert like eye on behind the camera. But when you get to that CGI, woo! It 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 has aged. It has aged like milk. Um, like there's this weird reptile creature. It is one of the worst CGI effects. And I know, you know, this is mid '90s. You know, this movie came out 22 years ago, but it still looks real bad. Like just even the design is just like you shouldn't have tried. Like you know, at this time they're very obsessed thinking they could do anything. You know, not like today, where our problem is understanding how Uncanny Valley works. Back then, you know, they were thinking, you know, they had this pompous ideas like we can make any form, so we'll use as much as we can. It's like, oh, let's have things, you know, show reflection and have things turn invisible. It's just like, no, just stop. Just you're not there yet. We can do that now. You couldn't do it right back then. I mean, I know kids that saw that's probably where their minds have been blown. Like, holy shit! Oh my god! Oh, but no, yeah, that's definitely something I gotta say with CGI. One of the weird bits of CGI, yeah, we have Sub-Zero, so obviously we gotta use, you know, CGI ice. That never looks quite right. But what is like a real sin against this movie is the scorpion. Ooh. So he has like this like hand that has like a vagina on it, and like this little dinosaur beak pops out. You know, that's the equivalent of having, you know, the rope with the dart that he throws off of his wrist because it's supposed to be mounted on him. Someone in studio, someone in art department is like, oh, let's make it a part of his body because maybe some piece of, you know, the Mortal Kombat tournament had a print on him, something encrypted. I gotta stop saying that. But he like shoots it out, and it's like a weird ass cartoon, and just slapping everywhere, and has a mouth and has like a snake tongue, and it tries to chomp at Johnny Cage. Now for the characterization of, you know, our main heroes, Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, and Johnny Cage, you know, our heroes. As far as I can tell, I mean, I haven't played a lot of Mortal Kombat recently, but they seem pretty in line with, you know, their one-note type personality. You know, a little more stereotype, I might say, in some cases. Sometimes, you know, they just half-ass some line to establish a character, but not really, you know, really feel it. They have a few cute moments together. A lot of times when they try to do humor with them, it's just not funny. It's not painfully not funny, but it's just not funny. But by far the most developed character is Liu Kang, because he has a little bit of an arc. Everybody else doesn't. He actually does. Because, you know, it sets up his torment of, you know, I think it was his younger brother that was killed and tortured by the villain, the main villain of this movie, Shang Tsung, and he conquers, you know, that pain that he feels, and he kills this guy. You know, previously had like problems with, you know, people killing, but, you know, he was like, you know what, this time even though I think you're a human. You know, I think I killed a monster back there, but you are a man, and you know, you know, you decide your own fate, and I decide mine. I'm like, holy shit, did we? Did I put in the wrong movie? This character here? What the fuck? That's awesome. But yeah, but Sonya Blade, at one point, being able to kick ass, she you know, she's like some kind of FBI agent or a police officer or something like that. And then she becomes a damsel in distress, and she's put into like a weird leather dress outfit. Just like, no. Why'd you do that to her? I mean, I'm not saying that this movie is sexist or anything. I'm just like, but wait, you were like badass before. I'm like, what changed in the past 20 minutes? I'm like, I'm not feeling that. If she had been like crippled by something, then I'm like, oh, okay, I got you. But no. Kano is ridiculous, and Raiden. See, I can't decide if this performance is just bad or is it lovably bad, because you know, it's definitely not good. That's for damn sure. And you know, he makes a lot of weird faces. I know the actor has myopia, so you can't help that. But he makes a really weird sounding voice, and they try to give him jokes, and it just does not work. His hair is on point though. He's like an effeminate man, but with a really bad smoker voice. It's kind of how I would describe his character, but not quite. Katana's in the movie. Talisa Soto is a very attractive woman, and that's her role. We learn nothing other than she has an evil father, and I think she likes Liu Kang, but we don't delve into that. They're like one pithy line, and like that's the only reason that we know that she's supposed to be the daughter of the bad guy, Chang. And you know, it's still really hackneyed and really like, what the hell, when our three characters come together. Like it is, they might as well just have snapped their fingers and just have them show up through a portal, because the way they come together is really lazy writing. And you know, there's plenty of silliness, corniness. Goro's in the movie. His like his suit or his puppetry or whatever is actually really good. I'm not gonna lie. It felt real, and yeah, I'm glad they didn't do computer graphics, because that would, you know, be just wretched. But yeah, overall, I think I'll give this movie. But yeah, I should talk more about the fights. The best fights, in my opinion, are between the second half. You know, when they actually fight between Scorpion and Johnny, when they're in like this red lit abandoned ship. It was actually really well shot, and it had a lot of energy. The fight between the last fight between Liu and Shang was pretty decent, and you know, it brought out the best emotional moment period out of this movie. And of course, you know, the characters come back together. They return back to Liu's family of monks. And because it's the 90s, in the beginning of the movie, we also had like a rock party rave with flashing lights and people in a crowd in a dark room, because you got to have that in a '90s film. um, but yeah, and the movie open ends for a sequel, baits, and it ends with the iconic dragon logo. They're like Mortal Kombat, and I gotta say, you know, despite this movie not being the best, that song's awesome. I think I would give this movie a C. It's stupid. It's kind of fun. There's a lot of cheesiness, but there's still some good that's there. There's pretty much never a point where I'm like, oh god, unless if it's the computer graphics. But even when it's computer graphics, I'll laugh at that, and it kind of becomes an ironic good. So I might give this a movie and an ironic B, but I think it actually deserves a C. So it's by the Critics. I love you. Tell me what you guys think.